Data aggregation. Now, whenever you're working with data and you want to get a general essence of essentially what was happening at a particular time or based on particular parameters, aggregating the data into something very simple is very effective in understanding the general sense of what the data is telling you. Now, this involves aggregation analysis. And to do this, we utilize, to cut this short, we aggregate using a function called AGG or group by. Now, we can see that pandas plays very well with statistical analysis, just like we did in NumPy. Now, in this case, we can run the mean of a particular column, such as age. In this case, we're utilizing a new data set that we just loaded in Titanic. So we're not working with the telco data set. Now, the Titanic data set involved a couple of variables attributing to whether a specific person, given their data points, survived or didn't survive. Now, from the Titanic, by the way. So you can run a numerical operation on a given column or a set of selected columns, such as median, and it returns a series data set, whereas the index is each particular column name, as well as the value being the operation of which it ran by. We have also seen running.describe, of which does a breakdown of the statistical analysis on your entire data set, or you can specify a particular set of columns for it to run that operation on. Now, when you run .aggregate, you have the opportunity of specifying what exact numerical operations or statistical operations you want to be conducted within this particular set of columns or within your entire data frame, essentially. It starts off by declaring the name of your given column, as well as all the statistical operation that should be occurring. So in this case, we are running a breakdown of age based on the minimum value, maximum value, median, and whether any value within your data is skewed, or how many values within your data are skewed. So skewed data essentially represents what we just spoke about when you're talking about box plots. Are some values outliers? Are they out of place, or will they create a considerable impact in your analysis if they're not handled? So what percentage of values are within that particular category? And for fair, we're running min, max, and median as well, and also the mean instead of the skewed value. So when we run this operation, you can see we get a breakdown, whereas the column names are actually columns, and the index is the operations of which we ran to our given two columns, giving us a clear outline of all the values within our data set. Now, in the places where you did not specify whether it should run a given operation, it provides you with a none value because it wasn't explicitly told to run the mean for age or run whether any values in fair were skewed. Now, more commonly, .group by is the more popular form of running this operation within a given data frame. So you can call in a given set of columns, and you call .group by based on a given column from your data set, and then you run a numerical operation on all the other numerical data types within your data frame. Now, in this case, because we are selecting only two columns and we are grouping based on sex, it means that we are left with only one other column, of which happens to be numerical. So it's going to run the mean of the ages based on the sex, grouping the sex to the unique identifiers or the unique categories within that column, and then getting the mean average based on each particular sex, based on the ages it's finding within the data. So you can also run this operation generally on your data set. Instead of breaking down 2 specific columns, you just call the entire data set, you group by, and you can also group by based on 2 different columns. So it's going to go ahead and group based on sex to begin with, and then based on sex, it's going to group by based on the passenger class. And you feed this information in a list, including the column names of which you want to group by. And based on that, what other numerical column do you want to statistically analyze? So in this case, we want to get the mean fare of each given sex based on their passenger class. And as a result, this is what we get. Sex, female, each passenger class in that particular category, and the mean value of which was paid in the form of fare. And the same thing was done for the male category for each given class value and their mean fare. So another operation that can be run within each given column, specifically column, is the number of value counts. Now, value counts identifies all the unique values within your given column and then returns the number of the occurrences of which it appears within that particular column. So this is a series specific operation. It doesn't run on data frames. So if you're working with data frames, you have to emphasize that you want the operation to be run on a specific column. And in this case, we're running the operation on the column passenger class. We call dot value counts, and we can see we had 3 distinct passenger classes, 3, 2, 1, as well as the value counts for each passenger class. To make things simpler, we can also use group by to aggregate the data. So we group by based on class passengers, and then based on class passengers itself, we count. So it drops all the other columns within your data frame and only focuses on the count for passenger class based on their grouping.